All right. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have Hasegawa's CMV-22B Osprey, limited edition reboxing of Hasegawa's fantastic V22 family. They have also done the MV22, the Marine variant, and also the CV22, the Air Force variant. But this is the Navy variant. It is kit number 02410, limited edition again. I believe this has got basically the same sprues as the other Osprey variants, the MV and the CV, with the addition of the Navy bits in, I think it's resin, but this is obviously sealed. So let's get the plastic off of this and we will take a look in the box. Trusty unboxing knife. I know some of you don't like to hear that, but sorry. All right, so opening the box, get that out of the way. We have, bag on top is clear parts, some small plastic bits right there, followed by the other clear sprue with the stand and some additional items. And then everything else in one really big bag, including those resin sponsons that we talked about. Plus, down below, we have the decal sheet and the instruction manual. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna clear all this off. We're gonna get the bags or the sprues out of the bag so there's no more plastic crinkly sounds, and then we will be right back. All right, and welcome back. So as with all of our other unboxings, we're gonna run through the instruction sheets first. This is Hasegawa's typical sort of opening pamphlet style. Could be a little bit of a problem if you have a small workbench, but this is obviously the CMV-22B Osprey US Navy version. Again, kit number 02410. And here's a little bit of a blurb about the Osprey itself, a little bit about the mission history. This is essentially the Navy version of the Osprey. Vertical takeoff, turns helicopter plane. So we start off with the parts map, obviously showing some parts, kind of highlighted in gray here, that will not be used on this variant, parts not for use. And also noting additional, I guess UR stands for urethane resin, cast parts, and also this, I believe this is a photo etch piece for the kind of I guess they call it a tow rack antenna that runs alongside the aircraft. So moving from the parts map, color callouts down here, again, check your references to make sure you're using what's right. And then straight into opening the instructions. This is not gonna fit in frame in a moment, but we'll do our best to kind of keep it as legible and in frame as possible. So obviously starting out with the interior, cockpit pieces, kind of a wing box going in there, then the main wing assembly, top and bottom halves, the end plates for where the nacelles will mount, the flaps, followed by the tail fin, those distinctive twin tails of an Osprey, mounting the cargo door. I don't believe there is a detailed cargo compartment open for this, possibly an opportunity for the aftermarket there, but definitely not included in this kit. So moving on to step 5, you're opening a bunch of holes along the side of the fuselage for that towel rack antenna, showing you where to drill out, how to space out your holes. Moving down from there, some more holes for opening on that towel rack antenna. Adding in the antenna there, showing its placement, giving you some ideas on exactly where it should land. And then down to figure 6, adding those large additional sponsons. I believe that's for extended fuel range. Don't quote me on that. Adding the nose gear, or if you want to show it in flight with the gear doors closed, adding in various airframe details, main gear assemblies. If you want it closed, you're just going to be closing the gear doors again. Assembling those massive propellers. You'll be building 2 of those, obviously, engine, cowls, nacelles. paying attention to if you want pilots. And as we close out the back here, apologize for the noises, you have finalizing the cockpit, adding in the coaming, the seats, the control sticks, adding in an overhead console, overhead panel, and then assembling the display stand. If you want to try it out, I do believe the branch of ResKit called Kellic is making a 3D printed decal style interior for this, which I do intend to get and try out on this build. So that'll be interesting to see how that works. Then moving on to decal placements and markings, it looks like you really only get probably 1 or 2 options here. Pretty standard stencil placements on both. Decal placements on the nacelles, on the props, along the top and bottom sides, and that's your Osprey. All right, we're gonna come back in a minute and look at these parts here. I have them all out of the bags. This was loose in the bag. Always check your bags before you throw them out. We'll look at all the sprues and then we'll round it all out. All right, and we're back. So we're gonna look at the main sprues first because they were in that big bag. And since they're sitting on top, we'll start off with these resin sponson extensions. These go on the front of the sponsons on both sides and give it that sort of pregnant Osprey thick with 3 C's hips look that this particular variant is so distinctive for. But I believe these are extended range fuel tanks that add more fuel range. I don't think they're used for storage, but they might be, don't quote me on that. But these are cast in resin, they're hollow, they're fairly thin. I think, at least according to the instructions, they fit right over the fuselage, or the molded sponsons in this section. But again, test fit, you may have to do a little sanding on here to get the right thickness for it to sit flat, because it is seamless on the real aircraft. So just keep that in mind. These are cast in resin. Make sure you don't lose these. This part was loose in the bag. Always check your bags before you throw anything out. This is one of the caps for the spinners. So we can move directly into these sprues here. This is, as you can very easily see, the main fuselage sprues. Hasegawa's V-22 in 72nd scale is known as one of the best kits of this aircraft, at least in this scale and probably overall. Your options in 48 scale are really the new Hobby Boss 148 scale kit. The other options really don't warrant mention. But you have raised and recessed details on this. You have raised strengthening plate running down the fuselage here, or fairing, and you have recessed panel lines and rivets. You'll also see some raised detail around that door, that hatch, and also around the nose here. Everything is crisply molded, very standard Hasegawa gray plastic, nothing really to report there. Cockpit tub is pretty bland. There's a couple of molded lumps here and there, some tracks for the seats, but nothing really to report there. A 3D decal set on this will probably work fantastically because it'll be hidden under the canopy. You won't see much, but what you will see is going to look really nice. So looking forward to that. But here's the other side of the fuselage. Again, similarly molded to the other side, very crisp, raised and recessed details. Nice crisp undercutting there with vent detail, windows. Yeah. Moving on to the next sprue, we have this looks like that wing box that kind of goes in the fuselage and probably holds the wings up or helps it lock in. Have the halves of the tail planes here. Looks like a brace of some kind. Yep, it says front on that. And then you have some of the seats. Again, not a whole lot of detail on this. Again, 72nd scale. And if you choose to put pilots in, you're never going to see any detail anyway. That's the kind of I think the FLIR turret, in-flight refueling probe that go on the nose. Again, raised and recessed details on these. Very sharply molded. No flash whatsoever. Typical Hasegawa, which you would kind of expect. Some antennas, grab handles there for the rest of the fuselage. This sprue, you get pilots, at least their bodies, arms, separately molded. I don't see their heads are right there. This is one of the intakes on the nacelles. Get some wheels, some other little minute details. Some of these, I guess these sort of probes look a little bit chunky. It would probably be nice to see if those could be thinned out a little bit. Maybe, I don't know if anybody makes a photo etch set for this kit, and probably Edward does, I don't know. But I would say that these could do with some replacement to make them look a little sharper. But yeah, other than that, everything else, pilots molded in flight suits, helmets molded on their heads, very, very sharp. Control stick, no flash or seam in that intake right there. Yeah. Moving on, you get a duplicate of that sprue. So we're not going to go through this, same as the other sprue we just went over. We'll go over this photo etch in a second. This sprue is stuck together with the other one. I'm going to try to get it apart without breaking something. Oh, there we go. All right, these are the two engine pods or nacelles, left and right halves. You get the instrument panel. Yeah, not a whole lot of detail on this, but you're also not going to see a whole lot through the windshield. Get that cargo door, molded and raised detail. Get some detail on kind of the articulation points of those nacelles. Not a whole lot, but again, not really a lot to see there. Very sharply molded, recessed detail. Yeah. And then you get two of these sprues, one of which is a little torn apart, but you get two sprue Fs, which are the props. A little bit of assembly on those. These get pretty big once you assemble them. So these just make sure that if you do have your kit out, make sure you check, because these I've had a couple of these spinner caps tend to pop off. But we'll take a look at one of these. It still has a spinner on it. Not a whole lot of detail on these, but I don't think there is in real life anyway. But you can see a little bit of molded detail down there. Again, no flash or anything of that sort. The spinner cap is starting to rip off the sprue, so maybe a little bit of cleanup and filling to do there. All the ejector pins are sort of off the parts, so you shouldn't really be dealing with ejector pin marks. There's a couple on these blind sides, but again, you're going to be gluing these together, so you're not going to see those. But yeah, that's that sprue. And then this is the all-important actual wing. So this is the wing, and then you have the bottom pieces that glue onto this. This is the tail plane, top and bottom halves, flaps, top and bottom halves. I think these are some strengthening plates here or some internal framework. We'll start looking at the wing. The wing is molded again very crisply. You have raised and recessed details, raised being those sort of, I guess they're called, vortex generators. Little molded pieces there. You can catch them in the light a little bit. Very, very sharp. No flash whatsoever. No sort of panel line fade either as they go across these curved surfaces. You got a little bit of raised detail going across there. Bottoms, just some recessed paneling. And the flap actuators, make sure you cut these. You don't accidentally cut those off as you clean up those, ejection stubs. Then tail plane, not a whole lot of detail again, but I really imagine there isn't much in the way of like a World War II aircraft paneling going across this. Flaps, top and bottom halves, again, no imperfections on the visible sides, but the ejector pins are all hidden on the back, where it really doesn't matter. In typical Hasegawa fashion, very high quality, very, very hard plastic. This plastic is great to work with. It's not soft. It's not sort of that like bendy, not very nice stuff to work with. But that'll be nice. This is the photo etched towel rack antenna. As you can see here on my hand, it's going to be hard to, I'm not going to take this out because I know I'm going to break it or lose it. But you can see it's one piece. So make sure you don't break this, or if you do, you will be scratch building this out of wire or something of that sort, which may actually be better, honestly, because this is flat. I would imagine the antenna in real life is a round cross section, but it's nice that they gave us this as even as a template to work from. So make sure you drill those holes, maybe use this to line up the holes and make sure everything's correct. Then scratch build this out of thin wire and maybe plastic tubing. That might be the best way to do it. Maybe use some of the little pieces off of it to help it come together. But yeah, so that's that. That's all the gray sprues, the resin, the photo etch. Now I'll take a quick look at the clear sprues. The first sprue being the canopy sprue, this little K sprue. So canopy, very, very clear, even though it's a pretty complex curve, but I can see my fingers, or well, my hand, pretty clearly through that, as you can see in the back. Very, very clear, even on the sides. No imperfections whatsoever. I'm going to put this back in the bag immediately so I don't mess that up. You have molded round windows. Again, very, very clear. No imperfections whatsoever. Some lights, very nicely molded. This is a polycap sprue, or a poly bolt, and some polycaps. This is a flexible sprue. As you can see, it's like a vinyl. I think these will help the nacelles rotate should you wish to have them do that. So don't forget to put these in. This sprue is the base. So you get the base there, you get the little arm that comes off the base, and I think a couple of little brackets to kind of lock the whole thing together. But it's a very nicely molded. There's not a lot of, there's a couple near the back here, but no real distortion. It's a frosted sort of like a matte finish rather than the traditional shiny finish. I think that's actually, it looks really nice. But that's that. And then the last thing we'll look at is the decals, which come on this sheet. And it provides you, obviously, all the stenciling. It looks like markings for 2 different aircraft. So 447, 441. And then what's really nice is they give you these kind of these walkway, these patterns that this would be very difficult to mask and paint. But this whole piece, especially going down the back of the helicopter, the spine, is quite nice, I would say. Make sure you gloss, lots of setting solution, lots of water, then lots of setting solution to make sure that these all go down. Everything is very nicely printed. All the text is very readable. So you have obviously no steps. You have, I cannot read those small ones, but I'm going to zoom in on them and you can see. Nicely printed. It got a little bit of a satin finish. I would probably trim some of this carrier film out in between just to make life a little easier. These do have hollow centers in terms of carrier film, so that is nice. And then you have decals for the cockpit details. Admittedly, not very detailed decals. They're just sort of black backgrounds with white shapes on them. So I would highly encourage you to look at investing in a set of 3D decals for this, because I think they will look really nice through the canopy. The canopy is actually quite clear, so you will be able to see most of it, I think. It's got pretty big windows. But yeah, that's the decals. So yeah, that is Hasegawa's CMV-22B Osprey, or the Navy Osprey. I haven't seen really any other reviews of this kit online. I personally myself was very curious to see how Hasegawa approached the conversion from a regular V-22 to the CMV-22. It's I'm glad to see that they have included pretty much the major conversion bits, as these are in resin. I think there might be a couple other small antennas and such that have come and gone on these particular airframes that you might be scratch building, so check your references. But this is the main thing. These are pretty complex curves, so it's good to see that they've included these. I think personally, I will be trying to scratch build this antenna in some form of wire, because I think it'll be a little stronger and will look a little nicer than flat photo etch, but it's nice that they included this as well. It's a very distinctive detail. If you know it's there, you're never gonna not see it again. So overall, very nice. I will be building this at some point. It will be, there's one particular bird that's flying around San Diego that's got a pretty colorful tail on it, so we'll be attempting to do that as custom masks. And as I said, I will be getting a set of those 3D decals to check out. So yeah, that's Hasegawa's CMV-22B Osprey. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. I'll try to answer as best as I can. And again, thanks for watching. And if you like this video, please hit like and subscribe for more of these coming up. Thanks for watching. Take care.